Shabbat Shalom, family.
Shabbat Shalom.
Welcome to another new moon class that Yahweh has allowed for us to have here in Stone Mountain, Georgia. Sorry for the technical difficulties to our members that are online or on the phones. We had to straighten out some things here. You know how it goes. The storms roll through and internet and electricity and all other kind of miraculous things happen. Tonight's class is titled True Love of a Father. And it's funny how the Spirit works, because during Bible study, Priest Esaac mentioned the true love of a father. And I'm sitting there going, you're touching on my class, you're touching on my class. But that's just how the Spirit works. You know, brothers and sisters might discuss one thing, and when you come to class and you hear the same thing, and you're looking at each other like, what is this about? And that's just confirmation. You know, we've got to start understanding that the Spirit moves through true servants. If you're a true servant, you're not in control of yourself. That's what you want, is Yahweh to be able to use you to get messages across. But you have to be willing to give yourself up to be used as a servant. Because one way or another, you're being used. We give ourselves up to be used by the adversary and we don't realize it. And some of us knowingly know that we are being used by the adversary. But it's the same thing when you come into the war. You have to prepare your vessel to be used by the Father. That's what I pray for. Anyway, this evening we're going to start in Matthew chapter 7, and we're going to read verses 6 through 12.
Matthew 7, verse 6. Give not that which is holy unto the dogs, neither cast your pearls before swine, lest they trample them under their feet, and turn again and rend you. Ask, and it shall be given you. Seek, and you shall find. Knock, and it shall be opened unto you. For everyone that asketh receiveth, and he that seeketh findeth, and to him that knocketh it shall be opened.
And I've said it before, that first word in that verse 7 says ask. And if you take each letter from ask, it breaks down everything that's being said there. A for ask, S for seek, K for knock. It's there. It's the formula. It's right in that one word ask. Go ahead.
Or what man is there of you whom if his son asks bread, will he give him a stone? Or if he ask a fish, will he give him a serpent? If ye then, being evil, know how to give good gifts unto your children, how much more shall your Father which is in heaven give good things to them that ask him?
And once again, the key word, ask. You've got to ask him. But while you asking him, you need to judge yourself to see, are you even in the right position or the right place to be able to ask for certain things? You know, as children, even those of us that are adults, we've been children, and you've got to think about it. Man, if you know you did something wrong, that's not the time to go to your parent and say, well, can I get this? Can I get that? No, you wait for that right moment. Hey, I got all A's. You think I can get this new Xbox? You know, you don't come after getting written up in class and say, hey, can I get a new Xbox? Go ahead, my brother.
Verse 12. Therefore, all things whatsoever ye would that men should do to you, do you even so to them. For this is the law and the prophets.
And in that situation, what we tend to look at is what people do to us. It says, do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. That's the same formula. Therefore, all things whatsoever you would that men should do to you, the treatment that you want, the things that you want from someone else, why are you not giving it? You can't expect something that you're not willing to give. Let's go to Genesis chapter 24.
You know, it's funny that you you mentioned the whole thing about ask, and that's what our priest Esaac was talking to back in Bible study. If King Dawid would have just asked,
Right.
you know, but he didn't.
I mean, my brother, even with us as natural men and women, we desire things. But the way we go about it, we still operating carnally.
Yeah.
Do we stop and pray? If your finances isn't looking good, do you stop and pray? If the car isn't running right, do you stop and pray? If the job isn't right, do you stop and pray? Or do we just move on our own? That's the key. We have to step back and learn to ask our Father for those good gifts that He has reserved for us. But once again, make sure you're in good standing before you ask for the gift. Go ahead. Genesis chapter 24, and we're going to read verses 1 through 9.
And Abraham was old and well stricken in age, and Yahweh had blessed Abraham in all things. And Abraham said unto his eldest servant of his house, that ruled over all that he had, Put, I pray thee, thy hand under my thigh, and I will make thee swear by Yahweh, the Elohim of heaven, and the Elohim of the earth, that thou shalt not take a wife unto my son of the daughters of the Canaanites.
In this situation here, what we see is a father looking out for the future of a child. I brought him up to this point. I was able to protect him up to this point. But after I'm gone, I need to set some things in order so that his life just doesn't go to hell in a handbasket. Because I know what these women are about. I know what's going to happen to him if he marries this woman. And it's coming right back to us being fathers. Parents, we have to be able to look out for the future of our children and set some things in order. You know, most of the times when we're trying to set things in order, we're talking about finances. What can I leave behind for them? How about a legacy? How about this history? Self-awareness. Go ahead.
Among whom I dwell. Verse 4. But thou shalt go unto my country, unto my kindred, and take a wife unto my son Esaac. And the servant said unto him, Peradventure the woman will not be willing to follow me unto this land. Must I needs bring your son again unto the land from whence thou camest? And Abraham said unto him, Beware thou that thou bring not my son there again. And the Adonai Yah, and Yahweh Elohim, of heaven, which took me from my father's house, and from the land of my kindred, and which spake unto me, and that sware unto me, saying, Unto your seed will I give this land. He shall send his angel before thee, and thou shalt take a wife unto my son from thence. And if the woman will not be willing to follow you, then you be clear from this my oath. Only bring not my son there again.
So even though he's sending him on a journey, he's saying, even if you fail, don't bring him back here. Don't bring him amongst these people. So it's something about those women that he's like, I don't care. Even if you don't get a wife for her of these people, don't bring him back here. But the sad thing is nowadays, as parents, we have moved out of certain areas, moved away from certain areas. And as much as we are thinking we've moved our children away from those areas, it's funny how when our backs are turned, that's where they gravitate right back to. Mm-hmm. So it's not even the servant stopping them from not going there. They just pick up and go on their own. That should have been another question of the servant. So what happens if he comes back on his own? Go ahead.
And the servant put his hand under the thigh of Abraham, his master, and swear to him concerning that matter.
All right, my brother, let's go to Genesis chapter 28. just to look at this whole situation again to show that it's not just a coincidence that one father says the same thing. Genesis chapter 8, and we're going to read verses 1 through 9.
28.
Yes, sir.
And Esau called Jacob and blessed him, and charged him, and said unto him, Thou shalt not take a wife of the daughter of Canaan.
So the same thing that his father did for him is what he's now doing for his son. But how does he know this was done for him? Or is it that those people that he's around is just the same foul people? So obviously he's still in the same place, around the same people. But he himself has enough sense to know that I don't want my son to deal with any of these people either. Go ahead.
Arise, go to Pandanaram, to the house of Bethuel, thy mother's father, and take thee a wife from thence of the daughters of Laban, thy mother's brother. And El Shaddai bless thee, and make thee fruitful, and multiply thee, that thou mayest be a multitude of people. And give thee the blessing of Abraham to thee, and to your seed with thee, that thou mayest inherit the land wherein thou art a stranger, which Elohim gave unto Abraham. And Esau sent away Jacob, and he went to Pandanaram unto Laban, the son of Bethuel the Syrian, the brother of Rebekah, Jacob's and Esau's mother. When Esau saw that Esau had blessed Jacob, and sent him away to Pandanaram to take him a wife from thence, and that as he blessed him, and that as he blessed him, he gave him a charge, saying, Thou shalt not take a wife of the daughters of Canaan. And that Jacob obeyed his father and his mother, and was gone to Pandanaram. And Esau, seeing that the daughters of Canaan pleased not Esau his father, then went Esau unto Ishmael, and took unto the wives which he had Mahalath, the daughter of Ishmael, Abraham's son, the sister of Nebaioth, to be his wife.
Now, we see where this is going right back down the same lineage and the same generation of people. Ishmael comes from Abraham. So they're keeping it within their culture. But look at what's going on here. This thing is being said to Jacob. This is not being said to Esau. But Esau is in earshot and hear what's going on and understands that his father is not pleased with these people, even though his father didn't tell him not to do it. So therefore, we as parents have to consider when you discipline a child or lack of discipline thereof, how many of the siblings standing by watching how you handle that situation? Because the lesson's being learned. They're paying attention of how you're dealing with one sibling versus the other. Like I said, it wasn't said to Esau, but Esau stood by and heard what was being said. And said, well, I'm not taking one either because my father don't seem to be happy with these people. So when we're in the space of disciplining our children, be careful of which one is around, peeping around the corner, or just listening to how the situation is being handled. See, that's the difference between raising a child and raising children. Let's go to Genesis chapter 34. We're going to start at verse 1.
And Dinah, the daughter of Leah, which she bare unto Jacob, went out to see the daughters of the land.
Now, what is it that she went out to see? As fathers of the congregation with young daughters who don't necessarily want to see the daughters of the land, but will encounter them as they go off to college or the workplace, what have we done to prepare them for these encounters And not just the daughters of the land, have we prepared them for the mindset of the sons of the land. Let's keep in mind we can't protect and shelter them from everything. So in this situation, what was going on with Leah? That she wanted to go see these daughters of men. Was it that she was completely isolated? That's how we have to start dealing with situations. You take your children out and you let them see, hey, this is what goes on over here. Because keep in mind, we're not going to live forever. At this point, we hope we live forever, make it into the kingdom, walk into the kingdom. But you still have to prepare your children for the fact of if you're not around, what have you prepared them for? If you shelter them from everything, once they get out there, it's helter-skelter. I mean, we can't keep them locked up and boxed up. But as you introduce them, you show them a reality. You explain things to them. That's how the wolves come in. Because you haven't prepared them. I've heard Priest Esaac talk about it many times of these 30-year-old college students and the mind games they run on the 18-year-old girls coming in fresh off the block. But at some point, the parents also have to be held responsible. What have you prepared your daughters for? What have you prepared your sons for? Because sad to say, in this day and age, you got predators on your boys as well. We have to introduce them to the reality. We have to prepare them for what is coming. We have to prepare them for one day that we're not going to be around. Even when we're around, we still can't protect them from everything. But we can prepare them for things by being honest and true with our children. I mean, Eliel and a couple of other people in this room can tell you, hey, by the time I was 16, 21 is the legal drinking age in this country. But drinking was not anything new to me. Drinking wasn't new to most island kids. So therefore, when we reach 21, we don't go and overindulge. Because we come up and we're raised up with our parents saying, hey, finish this, taste this. As a matter of fact, white rum is the remedy for everything. So when we reach that, it's not this fascination with alcohol at 21. Oh, I can drink now. I've been tasting it, and hey, it's not a big deal. So then you have to consider the mindset of these children once they get out there and this is new to them. They don't understand control. They don't understand limits. And even with that, how many people sit down and explain in that situation that, do you know you don't mix drinks? I learned that lesson the hard way. If you start out on beer, you stay on beer. If you start out on hard liquor, you stay on hard liquor. If you mix the two, you're going to have a volcanic eruption at some point. Go ahead. Verse 2.
And when Shechem, the son of Hamor, the Hivite, prince of the country, saw her, he took her and lay with her and defiled her.
So, what happened here? What was she not prepared for? Because in a situation like this, unless you straight caveman or hey, there's a certain distance that you shouldn't be able to run up on me on. But are we preparing our daughters for the mindset of the predators that are out there? And I'm not just saying men. The predators look just like them too. And the predators will set them up. I've got to be realistic about the environment that I came from and the things that I know about, and prepare my daughters and anybody else who wants the reality to know what's really out there. We do our daughters a disservice if we're not preparing them. The job market is coming. Hey, we can give them jobs. We can have them working right at home with us. What happens if you drop dead? Have you prepared them for what is to come? How badly have you handicapped them? Go ahead.
And his soul clave unto Dinah, the daughter of Jacob, and he loved the damsel, and spake kindly unto the damsel. And Shechem spake unto his father Hamor, saying, Get me this damsel to wife. And Jacob heard that he had defiled Dinah, his daughter. Now his sons were with his cattle in the field, and Jacob held his peace until they were come.
And even this situation, look at how backward this is. You did the deal and then you want to speak kindly onto her. Where did this mindset come from? What has he seen? Go ahead.
And Hamor, the father of Shechem, went out unto Jacob to commune with him. And the sons of Jacob came out of the field when they heard it. And the men were grieved, and they were very angry, because he had wrought folly in Israel in laying with Jacob's daughter, which thing ought not to be done. And Hamor communed with them, saying, The soul of my son Shechem longeth for your daughter. I pray you, give her him to wife, and make ye marriages with us, and give your daughters unto us, and take our daughters unto you.
Now, even in this situation, here's a folly been done, and we don't hear anything about where the father stepped in to talk to his son about, hey man, you went about this the wrong way. Mm-hmm. He's now trying to help him with the deed that he's already dealt with wrong and going along with it. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
You know, Brethren, and that's where we fail into being a respecter of persons. When you have, not because it's your son, not because it's your daughter, not because it's your mother, your father. If they do something that's not right, we need to make sure that we set them straight.
Right.
So yeah, that wasn't right. Verse 10. And ye shall dwell with us, and the land shall be before you. Dwell and trade ye therein, and get your possessions therein. And Shechem said unto her father, and unto her brethren, Let me find grace in your eyes, and what ye shall say unto me, I will give. Ask me never so much dowry and gift, and I will give according as ye shall say unto me. But give me the damsel to wife. And the sons of Jacob answered Shechem and Hamor, his father, deceitfully, and said, Because he had defiled Dinah, their sister. And they said unto them, We cannot do this thing, to give our sister to one that is uncircumcised, for that were a reproach unto us. But in this will we consent unto you, if ye will be as we be, that every male of you be circumcised. Then will we give our daughters unto you, and we will take your daughters unto us, and we will dwell with you, and we will become one people. But if ye will not hearken unto us to be circumcised, then will we take our daughter, and we will be gone. And their words pleased Hamor and Shechem, Hamor's son. And the young man deferred not to do the thing, because he had delight in Jacob's daughter. And he was more honorable than all the house of his father.
So what has this young man seen that he's more honorable than all his house? All his father's house. So you see why the father's going along with this. Because this young man has seen some stuff. So good, bad, or indifferent, whatever we're doing, our children are learning from us. What are we teaching them? What examples are we giving them? I mean, this man was more honorable than his father. And we can see his father went along with the deed. Now imagine after taking this young lady, if he decided he didn't want to be with her. That's the point that the brothers haven't gotten past yet. They're still upset about the fact that he took their sister. But they're not looking at the fact that, you know what? He's now going to take her and make her honorable, because what is this going to do for her life when somebody else wanted to marry her? Because at this point, there's no tokens of virginity. Like they said, she's been defiled. And even after this situation, we don't really hear much more about her. So the blessing in it is that he was going to do the right thing. And I think from these situations here is where our people started coming in with shotgun marriages. But see, those days are long gone. We've forgotten the culture. We've forgotten what it means to be able to hold your head up high in a respectable manner when certain things take place. Everything is feng shui nowadays. Oh, we'll get over it. It'll be okay. And we stand by and we just deal with things, then giving the individuals that have done the wrong the mindset that it's okay to continue in this manner. That's the precedence we're setting. Did the brothers have a right to be upset? Oh, yes. The father had a right to be upset too. Let's go to Luke chapter 8.
Brother, when you look at that down the road, it was going to be a bigger problem for Israel, because you got to think that they had to try and convince the men of the city. If you go down a couple of verses, as they go to convince the men of the city to go along with this circumcision, they say, will not all of their belongings be ours? So eventually they were going to intermingle themselves with Israel until they destroyed Israel. That was the way that they were going to convince the men. Shall not every beast of theirs, when they give their daughters, all of these things are going to be ours. You have to look at what was their future later on, being with this group of strange people, and just the whole thing of Israel was going to be gone as time went on.
And you gotta wonder if Yahweh just wouldn't let that hatred go away because of what would have come. Because they had some serious hatred for them brothers.
Yep.
Luke chapter 8, we're going to start at verse 41.
And behold, there came a man named Jairus, and he was a ruler of the synagogue. And he fell down at Yeshua's feet and besought him that he would come into his house. For he had one only daughter, about 12 years of age, and she lay a-dying. But as he went, the people thronged him. And a woman having an issue of blood 12 years, which had spent all her living upon the physicians, neither could be healed of any, came behind him and touched the border of his garment, and immediately her issue of blood stanched. And Yeshua said, who touched me? When all denied, Cephas and they that were with him said, Adonai, the multitude thronged thee and pressed thee, and sayest you, who touched me? And Yeshua said, somebody had touched me, for I perceive that the virtue is gone out of me. And when the woman saw that she was not hid, she came trembling and falling down before him. She declared unto him before all the people for what cause she had touched him, and how she was healed immediately. And he said unto her, Daughter, be of good comfort. Thy faith had made thee whole. Go in peace. While he yet spake, there cometh one from the ruler of the synagogue's house, saying to him, Thy daughter is dead. Trouble not the master. But when Yeshua heard it, he answered him, saying, Fear not, believe only, and she shall be made whole. And when he came in unto the house, he suffered no man to go in, save Cephas, and Yaakov, and Johanan, and the father and the mother of the maiden. And all wept and bewailed her. But he said, Weep not, she is not dead, but sleepeth. And they laughed him to scorn, knowing that she was dead. And he put them all out and took her by the hand and called, saying, Maid, arise. And her spirit came again, and she arose straightway, and he commanded to give her meat. And her parents were astonished, but he charged them that they should not tell no man what was done.
So the father went out to meet Yeshua. He's a ruler of the synagogue. He went out to meet Yeshua because his daughter was sick. That's the extent that a real parent, a real father, should be able to go for their child. Look at all the midst of the things that took place. A woman touched him. He felt virtue go from him. He dealt with that situation. There's chaos going all around, but this man is still standing there. This man is keeping his eye on the prize because his child is sick. The welfare of his child means more to him than everything else that's going on. Even with people coming up with their negativity. Oh man, don't trouble that man. She's dead, man. That's the protection. That's the level of a real father. That's the extent of being there for the welfare of your child. You take it to even the people in his house was a distraction that they had to be put out. So imagine if he allowed the people in his own house to change what he believed and what he expected. So we can see how difficult it is just to stand in that place in your own house sometimes. But do you let the multitude, do you let being outnumbered cause you not to get the reward that you set out to get? And this wasn't even for him. This was not even for him. Go ahead, my brother.
You know, the responsibility, and that's what, a lot of people need to understand when they become a parent, how the responsibility, it changes. Like you said,
it should change.
It should. And, it's not just me anymore. Now, you have your daughter, you have your son, you have your kids now. So, the responsibility and the thought process, all those things, man, it's supposed to change, but.
I mean, to be honest with you, man, when I decided to have children, one of the things I looked at, my biggest consideration is, hey, if I can feed myself, my children gonna eat. Mm-hmm. That means if I got a plate in front of me and I need to divvy it up for them, they're gonna eat. But you got other people there first.
Yeah.
Like you said, it should change. But how do we get away from the selfishness and put others before ourselves? Just like we saw in the example of Abraham. We saw the example of Esaac. They looked past their own lives to set a future for their sons. Yeah, Yahweh has promised all these things. But I still need to put some things in order so my son or my daughter continues down this righteous path. The people that they get involved with could throw them off that path. So let me go ahead and set some things in place to keep the right people around them. There's a saying, if you want to soar with eagles, you can't fly with crows. But how many of us are situating our children around the crows while we expect for them to soar like eagles? Let's go to Matthew chapter 26. Matthew chapter 26 and start that at verse 36. We're going to read verse 36 through 46.
Then cometh Yahshua with them unto a place called Gethsemane, and saith unto the disciples, Sit ye here, while I go and pray yonder. And he took with him Cephas, the two sons of Zebedee, and began to be sorrowful and very heavy. Then said he unto them, My soul is exceeding sorrowful, even unto death. Tarry ye here, and watch with me. And he went a little further, and fell on his face, and prayed, saying, O my Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as you will. And he cometh unto his disciples, and findeth them asleep, and saith unto Cephas, What? Could ye not watch with me 1 hour? Watch and pray, that ye enter not into temptation. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak. He went away again the second time, and prayed, saying, O my Father, if this cup may not pass away from me, except I drink it, your will be done. And he came and found them asleep again, for their eyes were heavy. And he left them and went away again, and prayed the third time, saying the same words. Then cometh he to his disciples, and saith unto them, Sleep on now, and take your rest. Behold, the hour is at hand, and the Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us be going. Behold, he is at hand that doth betray me.
Now, we see on more than one occasion, he asked his father to take this cup away from him. But he got no answer. He asked, and he got no answer. A child has to be responsible for his actions. And as parents, we have to also learn that silence is golden. Sometimes they have to get that you mean what you say when you just look at them. See, most of us in my age group understand that look. Well, we've gotten to this thing where we back and forth with words and words and words. No, sometimes just that look should be enough for them to say, you know what? Let me get the hell away from him. He asked. He got no answer. And by getting no answer, he figured out the answer. Sometimes you just got to stand your ground. That's all Yahweh did. Stood his ground. He didn't say nothing to him. Okay, all right, man, let's get going. Yeah, I guess I got to go through with this. The man ain't answering me. And let's go to Colossians chapter 1. We get to where we think we have to explain everything to our children. No, sometimes you just give them the look. Sometimes you got to give adults that look. Go ahead. Start at verse 1.
Saul, an apostle of Yahshua the Mashiach, by the will of Elohim, and Timothy, our brother, to the saints and faithful brethren in the Mashiach, which are at Colossae, grace be unto you, and peace from from Elohim our Father, and the Adonai Yahshua the Mashiach. We give thanks to Elohim and the Father of our Adonai Yahshua the Mashiach, praying always for you. Since we heard of your faith in Yahshua the Mashiach, and of the love which ye have to all the saints, for the hope which is laid up for you in heaven, whereof ye heard before in the word of the truth of the gospel, which is come unto you, as it is in all the world, and bringeth forth fruit, and it doth also in you, since the day ye heard of it, and knew the grace of Elohim in truth. As ye also learn of
Epaphras,
our dear fellow servant, who is for you a faithful minister of the Mashiach, who also declared unto us your love in the Spirit. For this cause we also, since the day we heard it, do not cease to pray for you, and to desire that ye might be filled with the knowledge of his will in all wisdom and spiritual understanding, that ye may walk worthy of the Adonai unto all pleasing, being fruitful in every good work, and increasing in the knowledge of Elohim, strengthened with all might according to his glorious power, unto all patience and long suffering with joyfulness, giving thanks to the Father, which hath made us meet to be partakers of the inheritance of the saints in light, who hath delivered us from the power of darkness, and hath translated us into the kingdom of his dear Son, in whom we have redemption through his blood, even the forgiveness of sins, who is the image of an invisible Elohim, the firstborn of every creature. For by him we were all things created, that are in heaven and that are in earth, visible and invisible, whether they be thrones or dominions or principalities or powers. All things were created by him and for him. And he is before all things, and by him all things consist. And he is head of the body, the church, who is the beginning, the firstborn from the dead, that in all things he might have the preeminence. For it pleased the Father that in him should all fullness dwell. And having made peace through the blood of his cross, by him, to reconcile all things unto himself. By him, I say, whether there be things in earth or things in heaven.
Verse 19 says, for it pleased the Father that in him should all fullness dwell. So at some point, he saw in his Son the ability to be able to hand the reins over, to take over and trust in his creation, to trust in him being able to make righteous things. Are we preparing our children as fathers, as mothers, as parents, preparing our children to one day be able to take over the reins? It said it pleased the Father that in him should all fullness dwell. But at the same token, you have to know your child as well. But you have to prepare them to be able to trust in them fully. That you can now sit back in something as simple as a car and let them take the wheel. You don't just wake up one day and say, all right, here's the keys, drive. You work up to that. You build up to that. And you're watching what they're doing. And you're instructing. And then it might get to a point where you feel comfortable enough that you might just fall asleep behind the wheel on a long trip. But you slowly build up to that. You slowly prepare that. You slowly teach them and groom them for situations. I'm sure Yahweh didn't just wake up one day and say, here you go, create the world. Because we know Lucifer's the son. You ain't tell him to go create nothing. So we have a duty. If your children are not prepared for certain things, do you blame the child or do you blame yourself? Are you watching the strengths of your child? And at the same time watching the weaknesses and helping them to strengthen their weaknesses. As you stand by and watch certain weaknesses, even certain strengths, when they become horrible adults, you have no one to blame but yourself. If they get out there and can't survive because you have not prepared them for the real world and for real life, do you blame the child or do you blame yourself? Certain things have been taken away. The school no longer teaches children how to write in cursive. Do you blame the school that your child does not know how to sign their signature? Or do you now take that upon yourself? A lot of stuff is direct deposit, Cash App, this, that. But do you still not teach your child what a check is? And how you fill out a check? How you endorse a check? Do you not prepare them for those things? Or do you just say the school system sucks? We have a responsibility. Not just for our children, for all the children that we come in contact with. That's once again being the village. Let's go to Genesis chapter 1. We're going to read verses 26 through 31.
Genesis chapter 1 and verse 26. And Elohim said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth on the earth.
Now in this scenario here, it said, let us make man in our image, like it's been stated many times. So man was made to be many gods. But off the rip, man was given power. He didn't even take time to see what man would be about. Man was given dominion over the fish of the sea, over the fowl of the air, over the cattle, and over all the earth. But was man prepared for that job? Was man made prepared for that job? So there's where that grooming and preparation for certain things is necessary. Because we can see what man is doing to the earth. but yet we have dominion over it. And we're the ones destroying it. Go ahead.
So Elohim created man in his own image. In the image of Elohim created he him. Male and female created he them. And Elohim blessed them. And Elohim said unto them, Be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. And Elohim said, Behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree in the which is the fruit of a tree, yielding seed, to you it shall be for meat. And to every beast of the earth, and to every fowl of the air, and to everything that creepeth upon the earth, wherein there is life, I have given every green herb for meat. And it was so. And Elohim saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. And the evening and the morning were the sixth day.
You know, I want to go back to verse 26. It says, And Elohim said, Let us make man in our image, right? Really and truly, it should be, and El said, Let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth. So El created man in his own image. That's why I said it should have said El, because this is one person talking. It's talking about one individual. So El created man in his own image. It doesn't say in their image at this point. It's referring to one person. In the image of El created he him. Male and female created he them. Once again, it's he. One person doing this. But it said, let us make man in our image. So that means it's more than one person standing there. Even though it's one person doing all the creating. So at this point, it's like what I was talking about earlier. Yahweh has now seen it fit to turn the reins over. He said, go ahead. Do you. But he's standing by. But we later on find out there's consequences for this creation. Do we stand by our children and lead them and watch how they handle things, but also explain that there's consequences behind this? Let's go to Job chapter 1. Job chapter 1, and we're going to read verses 1 through 5. This will be the last scripture for the night. All right.
There was a man in the land of Uz, whose name was Job, and that man was perfect and upright, and one that feared Elohim and eschewed evil. And there were born unto him 7 sons and 3 daughters. His substance also was 7,000 sheep, and 3,000 camels, and 500 yoke of oxen, and 500 she-asses, and a very great household, so that this man was the greatest of all the men of the east. And his sons went and feasted in their houses, every one his day, and sent and called for their 3 sisters to eat and to drink with them. And it was so, when the days of their feasting was gone about, that Job sent and sanctified them, and rose up early in the morning, and offered burnt offerings according to the number of them all. For Job said, It may be that my sons have sinned, and cursed Elohim in their hearts. Thus did Job continually.
So, at this point, these are grown men and women. They have their own houses. He's rich. but he's still sending up prayers for his children. Do we figure the job is done once they're at the house and we don't have to send up prayers and supplications for our children to keep them covered? Because remember, if they done got themselves that dirty, even though they praying Yahweh might not be hearing them anyway. So the coverage, the prayer for our children is an ongoing thing. Like I said, this he did continually. He doesn't know what they're doing, but he said, hey, they might just be off into some mess. So let me send up some prayers and supplications for them. So to the children who are out on your own, you still might need to be mindful of how you're dealing with your parents, because that might be the only thing keeping you safe. Proverbs chapter 23 verses 13 and 14 says, withhold not correction from the child, for if you beat him with the rod, he shall not die. You shall beat him with the rod and shall deliver his soul from hell, from the lake of fire. But we that new age people where it's about time out. Put you in a corner so you can have time out. Please give me time out so I can think about what I did so I can perfect it the next time. Time out wouldn't work for me, I'm being honest. The only time out my parents did was time out enough to get the belt or whatever the heck was going to beat my behind. So for you new age parents, this is in scripture. We are of that generation, my generation is like the last who understood what a whipping was.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's all kinds of stuff in place, defects and all these people. Hey man, Yahweh said you spare the rod, you spoil the child. And even so much so in 2 Samuel verse 7 through 14 and 15, I'll be his father and he shall be my son. If he commit lawlessness, I will chasten him with the rod of men. That means I'll allow men to beat him. We're of that generation where the village raised the child. Most of y'all don't know nothing about that.
You know, the teachers used to beat us. Man.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're of that generation. So you're always saying, hey, I'm putting forth the same thing for my son. If he commit lawlessness, I'm going to chastise him with the rod of men. He didn't do no lawlessness, but he still got chastised. So therefore, he's not partial to what he wants you to do and then turn around and not do it to his son. All across the board, fair father. But my mercy, I'll chasten him with the rod of men and with the stripes of the children of men. But my mercy shall not depart away from him, as I took it from Saul, whom I put away before you. And that's the thing. In chastisement, don't forget mercy. Don't go overboard. Mm-hmm. Don't take your anger of other situations out on your children. Don't let it get to that point, or don't let stuff build up. There's parents who like to don't handle this situation and don't handle that one and don't handle that one and then don't handle this. And then once one gets, then you get in the compound for all of that. And the child don't understand why he's getting this beat down. Because you've let it all compile. But Yahweh himself said, but my mercy shall not depart away. Don't forget mercy in the chastisement. That's all we're going to do for this evening. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Praise you.